Hello my lovely students, you're welcome to a new lesson. Today, I shall be teaching you algebraic fractions. From definition, a fraction represents part of a whole quantity. A fraction is a number which has a numerator, a dividing line, and a denominator. For example, 1 over 4, 3 over 8, and 2 over 3. Similarly, an algebraic fraction is a mathematical expression which has a numerator, a dividing line, and a denominator. For example, m squared plus n divided by m minus n squared, and 5 divided by x plus 3. Let's learn more about algebraic fractions. Let's learn about the various operations in algebraic fractions. Number 1. Simplification of algebraic fractions. Number 2. Addition of algebraic fractions. Number 3. Subtraction of algebraic fractions. Number 4. Multiplication of algebraic fractions. And number 5. Division of algebraic fractions. Let's learn more about these operations in algebraic fractions. Operation number 1. Simplification of algebraic fractions. To simplify an algebraic fraction or reduce it to its lowest term or simplest form, here are the procedures to follow. Number 1. Factorize the numerator and denominator of the fraction where possible. Number 2. Divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. Operations number 2 and 3. Addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. To add or subtract algebraic fractions, here are the steps to take. Number 1. Factorize the denominators where possible. Number 2. Find the lowest common multiple of the denominators. Number 3. Express each fraction with the lowest common multiple as the denominator. Number 4. Add or subtract the fractions. Number 5. Simplify the result where possible. Operation number 4. Multiplication of algebraic fractions. To multiply algebraic fractions, here are the procedures involved. Number 1. Factorize the numerator and denominator of the fractions where possible. Number 2. Divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. Operation number 5. Division of algebraic fractions. To divide algebraic fractions, here are the steps to follow. Number 1. Factorize the numerator and denominator of the fractions where possible. Number 2. Change the division sign to multiplication sign and invert the dividing fraction, that is, the fraction at the right hand side. Number 3. Divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. Please take note of these procedures involved in the various operations in algebraic fractions. Next, let's solve some examples in algebraic fractions. Example 1 is on simplification of algebraic fractions. Simplify the following. Question A. 3n squared plus 9n squared p squared divided by 3n squared p. Question B. X squared minus y squared divided by y squared minus xy. Now, before we solve example 1, can you still remember the procedures involved in simplification of algebraic fractions? Let's see if you can. Once again, to simplify an algebraic fraction or reduce it to its lowest term or simplest form, the procedures to follow are: number 1, factorize the numerator and denominator of the fraction where possible. Number 2, divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. I hope you got that right. Next, let's see the solution to question 1a. For the solution to question 1a, factorizing 3n squared plus 9n squared p squared divided by 3n squared p, we are going to have 3n squared into 1 plus 3p squared divided by 3n squared into p. Next, we'll divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. The common factor here is 3n squared in the numerator and 3n squared in the denominator. Dividing the common factors, the answer to question 1a is 1 plus 3p squared divided by p. Next, let's see the solution to example 1b. Factorizing x squared minus y squared divided by y squared minus xy. We are going to have x minus y into x plus y in the numerator, representing the difference of two squares. And we are going to have y into y minus x in the denominator. In the factorized version of the question, please note that y minus x is equal to the negative version of x minus y. When you substitute the negative version of x minus y into the denominator, the algebraic fraction becomes x minus y into x plus y as the numerator divided by y into the negative version of x minus y in the denominator. Clearing your signs, you are going to have x minus y into x plus y in the numerator and minus y into x minus y in the denominator. At this point, when you divide the common factors in the numerator and denominator, what do you think will be the answer to example 1b? Let's see if you are right. Dividing the numerator and denominator by the common factors, the answer to example 1b is the negative of x plus y divided by y. I hope you got that right. Next, let's see our second example involving addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. Example 2. Simplify the following. Example 2a involves the addition of algebraic fractions. Example 2b involves the subtraction of algebraic fractions, while example 2c involves both the addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. Please, before we solve example 2, can you still remember the procedures involved in addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions? Let's see if you can. Once again, to add or subtract algebraic fractions, here are the steps to follow. Number 1. Factorize the denominators where possible. Number 2. Find the LCM of the denominators. Number 3. Express each fraction with the LCM as the denominator. Number 4. Add or subtract the fractions. And number 5. Simplify the results where possible. Next, let's see the solution to example 2a. In example 2a, we are adding the algebraic fractions 3n divided by n squared minus 1 plus 5n divided by n plus 1. Factorizing the denominators, we have 3n divided by n minus 1 into n plus 1 representing the difference of two squares, plus 5n divided by n plus 1. The lowest common multiple of the denominators is n minus 1 into n plus 1. Next, can you express each fraction with the lowest common multiple as the denominator? Let's see if you can. Expressing each fraction with the lowest common multiple as the denominator, we have 3n into 1 plus 5n into n minus 1 divided by n minus 1 into n plus 1. I hope you got that right. To be able to do this, first you are going to use the denominator of the first fraction to divide the LCM. That will give you 1. Then we'll multiply 1 with the numerator of the first fraction, which is 3n into 1. Since we are adding the algebraic fractions, we bring in a plus next. Then we use the denominator of the second fraction to divide the LCM, which will give us n minus 1. The n minus 1 multiplies the numerator of the second fraction, which is 5n into n minus 1. I hope that step is clear to you. Next, we remove the brackets in the numerator. That gives us 3n plus 5n squared minus 5n. Adding and simplifying the results, our answer to example 2a is n into 5n minus 2 divided by n minus 1 into n plus 1. Next, following the explanation in example 2a, can you subtract the algebraic fractions in example 2b? Let's see if you can. In example 2b, we are subtracting the algebraic fractions 1 over p minus 2m minus 2 over p plus 3m. The lowest common multiple of denominators is p minus 2m into p plus 3m. Expressing each fraction with the lowest common multiple as the denominator, we have 1 into p plus 3m minus 2 into p minus 2m divided by p minus 2m into p plus 3m. When you subtract and simplify the results, what will be your answer to example 2b? Let's see if you are right. Subtracting the algebraic fractions and simplifying the result, the answer to example 2b is minus p plus 7m over p minus 2m into p plus 3m, or 7m minus p over p minus 2m into p plus 3m. I hope you got that right. Next, let's see the solution to example 2c involving the addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. To start with, what do you think will be the LCM of the denominators to the question in example 2c? Let's see if you are right. Example 2c involves the addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. Simplifying 2 plus 6x squared plus 2y squared divided by 3xy minus 4x minus y divided by 2y. The LCM of the denominators is 6xy. I hope you got that right. Here we are going to consider the whole number 2 as a fraction 2 over 1. Expressing each term with the LCM as the denominator, we are going to have 2 into 6xy plus 2 into 6x squared plus 2y squared minus 3x into 4x minus y divided by 6xy. When you add, subtract and simplify the results, what will be your answer to example 2c? Let's see if you are right. After adding and subtracting the algebraic fractions and simplifying the results, the answer to example 2c is 15x plus 4y divided by 6x. I hope you got that right. Let's see our third example involving the multiplication of algebraic fractions. Example 3. Simplify the following. Question A. 4n squared minus 4np plus p squared divided by 2n minus p times 2p divided by 4np minus 2p squared. Question B. 3d squared minus 12 divided by 9d squared times 6d cubed divided by 4d plus 8. Please, before we see the solution to example 3, can you still remember the procedures involving the multiplication of algebraic fractions? Let's see if you can. Once again, to multiply algebraic fractions, here are the steps to follow. Number 1. Factorize the numerator and denominator of the fractions where possible. Number 2. Divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. I hope you got that right. Next, let's see the solution to example 3a. In example 3a, we are multiplying the algebraic fractions 4n squared minus 4np plus p squared divided by 2n minus p times 2p divided by 4np minus 2p squared. Factorizing the algebraic fractions, we are going to have 2n minus p into 2n minus p divided by 2n minus p times 2p divided by 2p into 2n minus p. When you divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors, the answer to example 3a is 1. Next, using the explanation in example 3a, can you multiply the algebraic fractions in example 3b? Let's see if you can. In example 3b, we are multiplying the algebraic fractions 3d squared minus 12 divided by 9d squared times 6d cubed divided by 4d plus 8. Factorizing the algebraic fractions, we have 3 into d squared minus 4 divided by 9d squared times 6d cubed divided by 4 into d plus 2. When you look closely, the numerator of the first fraction, which is d squared minus 4, is actually a difference of 2 squares, which can simplify into d squared minus 2 squared. When you further factorize this, we are going to have 3 into d minus 2 into d plus 2 divided by 9d squared times 6d cubed divided by 4 into d plus 2. At this point, when you divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors, what will be your answer to example 3b? Let's see if you are right. Dividing the numerator and denominator by the common factors, the answer to example 3b is d into d minus 2 divided by 2. I hope you got that right. Finally, let's see our last example involving the division of algebraic fractions. Example 4. Simplify the following. M squared minus a squared divided by m squared plus bm plus am plus ab divided by m squared minus 2am plus a squared divided by cm plus bc. Before we solve example 4, can you still remember the procedures involving the division of algebraic fractions? Let's see if you can. Once again, to divide algebraic fractions, here are the steps to follow. Number 1. Factorize the numerator and denominator of the fractions where possible. Number 2. Change the division sign to multiplication sign and invert the dividing fraction, which is the fraction at the right hand side. Number 3. Divide the numerator and denominator by the common factors. I hope you got that right. Next, let's see the solution to example 4. In example 4, we are dividing the algebraic fractions m squared minus a squared divided by m squared plus bm plus am plus ab divided by m squared minus 2am plus a squared divided by cm plus bc. Factorizing these algebraic fractions, we have m minus a into m plus a representing the difference of two squares divided by m plus b into m plus a divided by m minus a into m minus a divided by c into m plus b. Next, we are going to change the division sign to multiplication sign and invert the dividing fraction at the right hand side. When we do this, how will the algebraic fractions look like? Let's see if you are right. Changing the division sign to multiplication sign and inverting the dividing fraction at the right hand side, we are going to have m minus a into m plus a divided by m plus b into m plus a times c into m plus b divided by m minus a into m minus a. I hope you got that right. Next, dividing the numerator and denominator by the common factors, the answer to example 4 is c divided by m minus a. I hope all the explanations involving the various operations in algebraic fractions are clear to you. Thank you very much for going through the lesson today. I want to advise that for you to get more information about the topic algebraic fractions, please continue to read your textbook. Don't forget to attempt your quiz and your assignment. I hope to see you again in our next class. Until then, it is goodbye for now. Thank you very much.